episode of the Hype Coach podcast. I'm your host, Al-Chami, and we're doing things a little bit more differently today. We have a live podcast Q&A happening right now on my Instagram. So all my live feeders, there's about 14 or 15 of them. Each one of you guys get to interact with the podcast recording. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I am going to look over here. My phone is right here. And I have some responses from a questions box that I did a couple days ago. Now, you know, this year we are diving into controversial topics on my Instagram and my podcast. Why? Because every single question, every single response, all my questions in my therapy sessions, they all combine to a greater cause. Now, I have seen a pattern in women taking off the hijab. Now, there would be very different layers to this. So why is it important for me to raise awareness about this? When women have the hijab on, yes, it's for a connection. Yes, it's for a greater cause. Yes, it's a sacrifice. Yes, it's to conceal their beauty. Yes, it's a identity aspect. Yes, all of these are very much correct. But why do women take off the hijab? I know this happens a lot in the community. And unfortunately, there is very little understanding behind it. If you are seeing someone or have seen someone or have witnessed someone taking off the hijab while they've had it for a long period of time, it's very easy to get consumed with this person. Oh, this person doesn't fear Allah. It's not that shallow. It actually has so much different layers to it. Now, if you are on Instagram, you are more than welcome to chime into this discussion. But I have a whole heap of information and responses as to why people take off the hijab. Now, we know the hijab is a way of life. Yes, it is a sacrifice. Yes, it's to conceal your beauty. Absolutely. But I think we're missing the greater moral aspect here. And modesty is so much more deeper and intricate, and there's layers to it and there's pillars to it, that a piece of hijab, which is a piece of material, like someone can literally not even wear the hijab and have a greater connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they can have that added connection when they put the hijab on. It is so damn important to make sure you raise a great foundational growth. If you are a mother to daughters and you would like them to put the hijab on, 1, are you leading by example? 2, is it in your value system, and then is it in their value system? 3, are you growing and transforming and adapting that main foundation, which is love for deen and understanding? Or is hijab just something that you expect upon them? Or something that you've pushed upon them? Or something that you expect them to figure out along the way of life? Now, I personally did not grow up with the hijab. I put it on after I got married. So I've seen both sides of the scale. When you see both sides of the scale, my mum put it on about 3 times before she finally committed to it in full force. She was in her late 30s. But this is a journey. Hijab, iman, and your connection and akhlaq is a journey. Ultimately, it's a journey. You can't expect it to fall from the tree and go, yep, this is what you got to do. If you are a mother to daughters, you need to plant the seed in their mind first. You need to show them why we put the hijab on in the first place. Okay? But that's not the subject of today. But I thought that this would be a really great reason to start. So why do you think women take off the hijab? Seriously, theoretically, and then actual reality. I will tell you, I've shared this before. I used to be a babysitter, and about 95% of my clientele were single moms. Moms who did not have that support. Moms who went through that identity crisis. Moms who went through that rebellious stage. Moms who came out of a DV relationship and they just really, really struggled with the aspect of who they are, what they are away from this relationship. I've seen a lot of women take off the hijab and put it back on, and take it off and put the hijab on. There is a multitude of reasons. Okay? Now, personally, I've had my hijab on for, I think, 11 years now. Do I picture myself without the hijab? Probably not. I will never take off the hijab, ever. It's a straight no. Why? Because I've chosen the hijab. I fell in love with the hijab. You need to fall in love with the hijab first. You can't just expect it to fall out of the sky. It's not. You need to fall in love with the aspect of the hijab. And if you don't fall in love with the aspect of the hijab, why? Where do you get this aspect from? Okay, then I'm going to ask you a question. Why do you believe women take off the hijab? Now, if you're on my Instagram live, you're more than welcome to chime in your responses. So I asked this, I have a paper in my hand. I asked this on my feed, my sticker question box 3 days ago, or maybe about 5 days ago or something. And here are the responses. And every single one, I'm going to go through in detail. And I'm going to explain to you why it's not as one-dimensional as you think. Okay? The first one is to look more prettier and more desirable. Okay. 20 odd years ago, if you told me to put the hijab on, or you told someone to put the hijab on, it is not as easy as it is right now. I wonder why. We have hijab labels popping up every 5 seconds, like the hijab sets and people who sell the hijab. The materials are a lot more flattering than they used to be. There is so much more modest clothing. The modest clothing industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry at the moment. Like wherever you look, you will find something for modest clothing. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it wasn't the case. I remember for my formal, which was in 2010, when I seen my friends who were all hijabis get ready for the formal, they needed to take their dresses that they chose to a tailor, I think a tailor, khiyata in Arabic, to match the material to the body dress and attach it. And then they had to go find a bond. And then they had to go find a chiffon scarf. And then they had to find someone who would design their hijab and make sure it looks formal. Go and look at the fashion. Go look at the fashion 30 years ago. Nothing matched. I think those boutique Nur al-Huda, they sold abayas. They're the real OGs of the industry. And abayas and umrah wear and modest clothing, they always have. There used to be street gear back in the day in Lakemba. I used to live in Lakemba as a kid. That's about it. That's all I remember. And urban culture. That's all I remember. But urban culture took a while for them to move into the modest clothing industry. Mine was fear. It took years for me due to fear. Now, Jenna, I want to tell you what were you fearful of? And then I'll circle back to you. Okay? So now we have hijabi influencers, modest clothing. These are women that we can look up to. You will find your style or your journey plate in a influencer or a modest clothing model, I should say. You will always find something for you, no matter where you are in your modesty journey. But is it to look more prettier and more desirable? You know what? To some aspect, probably. If you were never made to feel or shown that the hijab is beauty, then very easily can you get kind of tangled up in that. Absolutely. But not really. It's not giving the answer that I want. Maybe, yeah, you want to feel a little bit more prettier. Maybe your hair was a very big aspect to your wardrobe, or your hijab was a very big aspect to your journey. Yeah, okay, I get it. But it's not giving, nail on the head. Second one is lacking in deen. To some aspect, I can understand, yes, it's lacking in deen. When you are a Muslim and you don't have a strong foundation for Islam or morals or akhlaq, yeah, it can very easily be lacking in deen. But again, it's not giving the answer that it should be. Because when we are lacking in deen, we can get very, very muddled up with the moral or the cultural aspect of religion, especially if it was forced upon you not by choice. That it was someone else's rule, for like a father or a mother or a cousin or an uncle or a community, whatever, that you needed to put the hijab on whether you like it or not. And very, very rarely do I ever see someone go, I took off the hijab because of lack of deen. You know what? I'm going to be, it's not giving the answer that I'm looking for. It's important, yes. So it's a very big aspect, yes. but it will be a multitude of things. That is not the thing that makes someone completely take off the hijab. I'll tell you what it is though, when someone shames you for taking off the hijab, or when someone shames you for how you dress. I'll tell you what it is. I had a friend 3 years ago, she took off the hijab. Okay? She was a revert, she took off the hijab. And I asked her, and I was never going to be judgmental about her. I'm like, look, I don't mind that you don't have the hijab on anymore. Just make sure you don't forget salah. Don't ever stop praying. Why? Because if that's the last rope that you're holding on to with your deen, then let that be it. I just punched myself in the face by accident. Let that be it. If that's that last rope, let that be it. Does shaitan get a kick out of you choosing? And I say that with shaitan get a kick out of you choosing not to put the hijab on? Absolutely. Because it means that you have lost your way. And that's exactly what he wants. You have chosen that. But then on the day of judgment, he will deny any responsibility because it's your choice. The fourth one is really important. Letting the Western world influence them. Yeah, probably. Because women are made with a multitude of different emotions. Humans are, as a whole. When you have a hijab on in a Western country, it is very different to having a hijab on in a Muslim country. Very different. You get different kind of looks. Like you could be wearing a dress in public and like it can be really, like you can feel the direction of eyes from different areas. 100%. It can be very uncomfortable. People say, you know, in if you're listening to this in a Muslim country, you understand what I'm talking about. And if you're listening to this from a westernized country, you know what I'm talking about. In a Muslim country, like when I went to Dubai 1 year ago, hijab, easy. You find modest clothing everywhere. There was no such thing as Greenacre Waterloo Road strip. Okay? It was just everywhere. There was like abaya shops and it wasn't as expensive and there was really good quality as well. And then you see women with niqabs. Like I remember I walked into the Chanel store and I walked in, there was like a door. I opened the door and then there was like a bunch of niqabi women sitting down having like, you know, sparkling water. And I was like, oh, I want to be a part of this. This is cool. It's very, very okay in the westernized country, in an Islamic country or a Muslim country. Whereas in a Western country, you can walk down the street and you will get looks. You can go to the shopping center and be wearing a hijab and you will get looks. It is very different and you can get really, really caught up in the judgment. But in a westernized country, like I live in Australia, we are a beach culture. You literally go closer to the beaches. Like I live about an hour away from the beaches, different beach. Closest beach is about an hour away. And you will go there and people are half naked, like literally half naked. The only thing that's stopping them between is just literally a string. It can get uncomfortable. That is the norm here. So what we've done, and you guys will understand, is in the West, we've created little communities for ourselves to feel accepted and okay with. But it can get really, really confusing because the Western country, and if you let the Western country influence you because you don't have the nail on the head foundation of the value of Islam. I think it's normal in the West, it's depending on where you're at. Michigan has a lot of this is the exact same thing as what I was saying about like Michigan. I have a lot of team. I used to run a business and we used to live like worldwide. We used to work worldwide. Michigan has a lot of Muslims. Greenacre, Bankstown area, like the area is very much the same. So we've created little pockets of communities where we can feel like supported. Okay. The fifth one is so damn important. Friends. If you have a teenage daughter and your teenage daughter is expressing that she would like to take off the hijab, I will go immediately and look at her friend group. Immediately. I won't even go questions asked. I'm going to say, this person doesn't have a scarf on. This girl's not Muslim. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Her friends are significantly important. Here's the funny thing. When I used to be a babysitter and I used to babysit for women that had just escaped out of a DV relationship and they dealt with, you know, DV relationships and they took off their hijab, I would find the funny thing in their friendship group, they also will take off their hijab. That's how important it is. So your friendship group has a significant impact on your deen, your akhlaq, and what you do. Absolutely. 100%. I will. Straight away 180. The next one is family bullying. Yeah, absolutely. If you are a revert and it's not accepted or understood, or it's self-explanatory. If you come from a family that doesn't understand the value of hijab, I would perhaps see if they are open to learning about the hijab, learning about Islam and why the hijab is important. It's very different to how it was a while ago. So now we live in a knowledge abundant world. Like, it's so knowledge abundant. Like, there's so much knowledge. I'm going to give you guys an example, and you guys will see what I'm talking about. When the October 7th happened and Gaza was attacked by the Israeli IDF, a lot of people on TikTok were reverting. So yes, our brothers and sisters were dying in martyrdom, but a lot of people were going into the Quran and then recording. There was this one TikTok lady, I cannot remember her name. She went into the Quran and started reading the Quran. She wanted to know, if these people are so full of hate, where is the book? Where does it say so much hate? She realized that they've stereotyped Muslims. And now if anyone remembers the TikToker's name, please say it so I can give her some acknowledgement. But she opened up the Quran and she realized that Islam is the truth. And she realized that they have stereotyped us from Western media that we are toxic and we are terrorists when we are not. So then she fell in love with Islam so much, she put the hijab on. Okay? If someone thinks that we are a terrorist or a bad people or oppressed, teach them. Don't attack them. This is your chance to do dawah. This is your chance to explain to them. This is your chance to see what they are made of. Act. Don't get sensitive. Don't get defensive. And here's another thing, right? If someone is telling you something about your deen or your religion and they're going to come with you with a verse of the Quran, be prepared to argue, not argue, but just defend. Set them straight without getting disrespectful. If the conversation is getting disrespectful, you can walk away. But that is an influence that you have. So show them, your family, show them why hijab is important. Teach them, educate them. This is your chance. If anyone's going to support you and they love you, it's your parents. But if they don't understand, that's completely fine. It's not their job to. I get it. It's completely okay. The next one is feeling accepted in the workplace. It kind of ties in with the one that I said before about the westernized culture. But here's the thing. We have something called working from home now. You don't really need to be accepted or feel accepted in the Western world, because we're not meant to blend in. We're not meant to. Our hijab is our crown. I know it's a cliche. We hear it so many, but our hijab is our crown. Wear it proud. You're a queen. Why are you a queen? You'll be a queen of your home when you have children. You'll be a queen of your household when you have a household. Wear this with pride. Wear this with so much pride and acknowledgement and love. Doesn't matter what anyone says. Who cares if they don't accept you? It's fine. It's not all doom and gloom. It's fine. Okay? So this one is really important. This is going to take me a while to explain. Past trauma. I was speaking about this on my TikTok, my Instagram stories a couple of days ago. And I implore all of you to go and relearn Islam as an adult. I implore you. Why? Because a lot of our values as a child and everything that we have been taught in Islam really was culture. Did you know that? Yeah. A lot of our past trauma, deen was influenced upon us through control and manipulation. So if you were shown about control and manipulation, deen, then it's not uncommon to have a bad taste in your mouth about deen. It's like your dad telling you to get up and pray, and all he does is watch, what's that? Al Jazeera. Yeah, I know there's like a bombshell. You are not going to pay attention to your father's, what he's telling you, if he doesn't do it himself. You know, monkey say, monkey do. You know that saying, monkey say, monkey do? No. Monkey say you do, then they do. If I want my children to read, I won't say, hey, come on, go and read. No, I sit down on my couch with my book, and they all may follow. Monkey say you do, then they do. Isn't that funny? Yeah. Monkey see you do, then they do. Monkeys hear you do, then they do. My son came to me in the morning yesterday, and I was getting him dressed for school, and he just gave me a cuddle. My son's 3. And he goes, oh, Mum, you're so beautiful. Just randomly. This morning was the first thing that he opened up his eyes and said, oh, Mum, you are so beautiful. And I had a little think there for a second. Okay, where did this come from? I'm a therapist, so I analyze almost every single thing. Okay? Yeah, that saying is very underrated. I analyze everything as a therapist, so you can understand, like, where is he? And then I realized he hears his father calling me beautiful all the time. All the time. All the time. So monkey see you do, you do, then they do. It's not monkey see, monkey do. They are very less likely to be influenced with the outside environment. You can send your child to a private school, and the private school, going off topic, but oh well, you can send your child to a private school, or you like. Make yourself feel good that you're paying for private education, or you like because they teach 1 hour of Quran and Arabic a day, or a week, or 3, whatever. But if the foundation isn't at home, you're wasting your money. Grab your money and move out of there. The main influence happens at home. That is why if you have past trauma with religion, go and find the reason why. Okay, this is another one. I'm going to go off a tangent here, but it's all interrelated. If someone comes to me and they have religion trauma, I am a Muslim therapist, they are Muslim. This is so important to have a Muslim therapist if you are Muslim. If you go to a Western therapist, they will, beyond reasonable doubt, if you say to them, I'm really having a conflicting idea about putting a scarf on or leaving it off, or vice versa. A Western therapist who doesn't understand it will be like, yeah, take it off. Let your hair out, babe. Do you. Go live your life. But a Muslim therapist, knowing and keeping your values intact, making sure that obviously you've allowed them to do this, will say, what does the hijab mean to you? Why are you thinking about putting a hijab, like taking off the hijab? What do you think it will help you achieve? See the difference? That is why it's so important to have a Muslim therapist if you are a Muslim. The therapist should have or incorporate your values as a human being. Doesn't matter if you're black, you're white, you're Asian, you're Caucasian, whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as the therapist is willing to incorporate your values into practice. That's what's important. So when we're looking at the past trauma related to the hijab, I'm going to go, if it wasn't your choice to put the hijab on, you can very much easily resent the person that made you put it on, whether it be your husband, your father. The hijab should never be forced. The next one is dissolved relationships. If your relationship has been dissolved and there has been DV, communication issues, and you've been in this relationship for a significant amount of time, it can be very confusing if you use your identity a part of this relationship. So it's not uncommon for a woman to feel like she doesn't matter, or she's not included, or it doesn't make sense once they leave the relationship. It's called an identity crisis. They don't know who they are away from this relationship, so they're trying to discover who they are. Along the way, they make a couple mistakes and then they come back to din. They do. I've seen it happen more than once. They will have a rebellious nature, a rebellious time, a really rebellious, phase, and then they will come back. They will come back to reality eventually. They will. Okay? No foundation for deen. If you want your daughter to put the hijab on, work as a child as setting the foundation for deen. Teaching them critical skills that is going to help them identify what Islam means. Find her role models within our deen. This is the foundation of deen. Akhlaq. 3/4 of the Quran is akhlaq. It is. 3/4 of the Quran is akhlaq, which means mannerisms, which means finding the reason what is modesty. You need to be modest with your behavior, your actions, what you say, where you go before you put the hijab on. The hijab, again, is just a piece of material. It's the modesty of action. And the last one is hijab limits quality of life. I've seen hijabis at the gym. I'm one of them. They wear that with pride. You do have to be a little bit more vigilant and aware of where you're facing. Yeah, that's fine. Okay? I've seen hijabis in parliament. I've seen hijabis as a politician. I've seen protests. I've seen motivational speakers. Hello, me, hello. And you wear the hijab with pride. Hijab does not limit your quality of life. It gives you more of a quality of life. If anything, it acts as a reminder. If you're going to do something haram, I wear a hijab. It protects you in so many different ways. It's like kind of like what is it called? The oyster? The clam? The pearl. Our hijab is concealed. We are concealed. There are different aspects and things that we need to pay attention to, but maybe this podcast will help you identify why women take off the hijab. Is it an excuse? No. Do I want you to shame them? No. If you're watching this and someone around you has taken off the hijab after having it for how long, don't judge them. Help them. Give them nasiha. Figure out what it is they hated about Islam, the hijab, and what they have a bad taste in their mouth about Islam. If you're taught Islam in a way that was manipulative and controlling, then I urge you to go relearn Islam. Because Islam it gives you so much freedom. It really does. I have not seen something that I wasn't able to do because of my hijab. But you make it a limit. You have that choice. You have the identity of being a hijabi. Now, I know that we've raised the bar so high, we're going to lower it down. All the way down. Being a hijabi doesn't allow you or doesn't mean that you are more pious than someone. It means that you are trying and you're on your own journey. Thank you for joining me on this next episode. Make sure you're giving us a like, share, and follow. And I will speak to you guys very soon.